I'd like to call this meeting to order for the City of San Juan Commission today, Monday, September 21st, 2015, at 6 o'clock. If we can all rise for the invocation. Council, can you lead us in an invocation?
Yes, Mayor. Everyone will bow their heads. Heavenly Father, thank you for our families, friends, and this community. I ask that you bless the city employees and the city commission as they tirelessly work to make the community a better place to live and prosper. May they act in accordance with your will, and may their decisions be for the well-being of all. Lord, we ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. We can face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All may be seated. Under presentations, I want to take an opportunity at this meeting to, first of all, welcome our new city manager, Mr. Benjamin Arjona. Welcome to the city of San Juan. And I know that you've had a busy day already today, but on behalf of all of us here at the city, the commission, and our staff and the community, we look forward to your leadership. And I know that we're going to definitely keep you busy. But we're looking forward to making sure that all the projects that we have commenced under the different city manager also started, Mr. Gonzalez, that we continue with that and continue to make this community a better community. So welcome to the city of San Juan.
Thank you.
Would you like to address your public?
Good evening. I just want to thank everybody, like I thank the council and the city commission for entrusting me this city. I guarantee you that City of San Juan is going to be in good hands. We're not. We come here to work, and we're going to make a better San Juan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arjona. And now I'd like to ask Chief Gonzalez if you can come forward. He signed up for interim for a temporary basis, which became about 1.5 years. And like I told him this morning, he might have jumped into the frying pan, but he didn't get toasted. He did well. So just a token of our appreciation, Chief, from the commission and ourselves, we'd like to give you a pen set from the city for all the time that you spent with us, just a small token to appreciate the time and the energy and your leadership. And we are, of course, very happy that you continue with the police department doing what you do. So on behalf of us, please accept this gift. Moving on to item B, presentation on departmental reports.
Mayor, we had public comments.
Oh, yes. Said I saw Ramiro on this one. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We've got Mr. Ramiro Treviño. Again, B, presentation departmental reports. Mr. Arjona, at this time, we typically just ask our,
Okay. Yes, we have
Folks.
Utilities Department, Police Department, Municipal Court, and the Fire Department that submitted the reports this time.
are there any questions on any of those reports that have been submitted by any members of the commission? No. All right. Moving on to item 4 under public hearing ordinances, we're going to hold a public hearing under item A for conditional use permit to operate a social event center in a commercial property located at 701 West FM 495, legally described as Lot 1, Elias Sanchez subdivision, located approximately a quarter of a mile east of Veterans Boulevard along the north side of FM 495 as requested by Linda Quintanilla. Mr. Cervantes.
Yes, Mayor Commissioners, good evening. Ms. Quintanilla purchased the property in 2014 and subdivided it into one commercial lot in June 2015 in order to build a social event center in the property. After the amendments to the zoning ordinance of August 11 of this year, all new social event centers in commercial properties need to obtain a conditional use permit in order to operate such a business. Ms. Quintanilla is proposing to build an 11,000 square foot building that includes dancing and dining areas, a swimming pool, and playground areas. She is proposing to have a landscaping in the front along FM 495 and the parking in the back, which is in the north side of the property. Proposed hours of operation for the business will be Sunday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. and Fridays and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. One of the conditions listed in the ordinance is that no noise as a result of the events shall be heard from the surrounding properties. Staff sent notices and received opposition during the Planning and Zoning Commission from Mr. and Mrs. Eastwood, which reside just east of this property. Staff recommends approval contingent on the conditions listed in the ordinance. During their September 17 meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial unanimously.
At this moment, I'd like to open up the public hearing at 6:07. Are there any members of the public who wish to make any statements for or against? Any members of the public? Please come forward and state your name, please.
Voy a hablar en español.
Muy bien.
Mi nombre es Elias Sánchez Escobar. Quiero decirles que ante todo respeto la ley, las decisiones que ustedes toman estoy de acuerdo, pero sí, por lo que me comenta mi hija, la vez pasada y ahorita que vemos la ceremonia que hicieron ahorita donde se hace una cuestión espiritual y se hace un saludo a la bandera en un recinto legal donde estuve la vez pasada, cuando yo vine a preguntar si podía comprar un terreno, primero comprarlo si se me autorizaba que fuera comercial. Y luego que es para el uso exclusivo, para que es un salón de eventos. Hasta entonces yo no he comprado nada. De este recinto yo me llevo una certeza legal de que era aprobado. Después yo compro ya el terreno, invierto en separarlo, la subdivisión, invierto en pagos de arquitecto, invierto en pagos a la ciudad, un monto que son casi $165,000 que ya están pagados, después de que se me autorizó eso. Si me hubieran dicho a lo mejor se va a poder o no se va a poder, yo no invierto, eso es lógico, ¿verdad? Entiendo también y respeto mucho los derechos del vecino, el señor que se siente inconforme con mi cercanía, sí lo entiendo. Pero yo pienso que todos y ustedes como autoridades tenemos responsabilidades donde tenemos que ver el progreso de la ciudad y yo no sé qué tipo de negocios tendría que haber ahí para que al vecino no le incomode. Yo pienso que cualquier negocio está en una zona comercial te va a afectar. Si llegara a una farmacia, si llegara a lo que sea, tarde o temprano esa privacidad que él quiere tener no se va a poder tener, ¿verdad? Entonces yo le solicito antes de que tome una decisión de que piensen en eso, ¿no? Yo estoy arriesgando un capital, la inversión va a ser fuerte, pero sobre todo que yo no hice nada que no se me fuera autorizado, ni comprar, ni planear, ni nada. Todo lo empecé después de que aquí en la ciudad me autorizó un sí para que fuera comercial y un sí para que se usara para ese propósito. Muchas gracias.
Tengo una pregunta, si me permite. Usted dice que cuando le habían dicho el sí, sea por la propiedad y el permiso, ¿usted lo confirmó en una junta con el P&Z o ¿dónde dice usted que le hicieron esa recomendación?
Aquí yo tuve una junta y primero salió una negativa, luego tuvimos otra junta donde salió aprobado y de hecho la fecha de mi compra del terreno fue posterior a la junta que tuve aquí, incluso pagos a la ciudad, y entiendo que hay una ordenanza nueva, por eso digo, yo estoy dispuesto a respetar la ley, pero es muy difícil si mañana sale otra ley. Si mañana sale otra ley o sea, no se puede, pienso yo, pues no sé cómo funciona la ley, hacia atrás no puede funcionar, funciona hacia adelante, ¿verdad? Entonces, aquí se me dijo, sí puedes comprar, sí, para ese giro comercial, sí se puede, respetando la privacidad del señor, respetando no tirarle basura. Creo que ahorita el problema es de sonido, ¿verdad? Del ruido que se le pasa. Yo lo entiendo perfectamente. Entonces, más bien que un no, yo quisiera ver cómo se puede un sí, bajo qué manera no lo puede afectar. Me acompaña el arquitecto que me está ayudando, y él podría decirme, bueno, podemos poner esto, podemos hacer lo otro, de tal manera que no perjudiquemos a los derechos de la otra persona. Yo no digo que se atropellen los derechos de nadie, ¿verdad? Pero ese sí me lo llevé de aquí. Yo no hubiera ido a invertir $160,000 si no tuviera la certeza. Si me hubieran dicho, sí, compra lo comercial, pero luego te vamos a ver para qué giro se va a autorizar, yo tampoco compro, ¿verdad? Y me falta, créame, bueno, se imagina, eso es lo básico, falta el resto de la inversión, ¿verdad? Que va a ser muy importante.
Y este tema que se llama el requisito que usted escuchó después, ¿qué son las soluciones cuales usted está proponiendo?
El arquitecto y yo comentábamos de que el principal problema para nuestro vecino es el ruido, ¿verdad? Porque si es un horario, pues obviamente si es un salón de fiestas, se va a haber ruido. También entiendo que va a ser a las horas que ustedes regulan para eventos, a las 12 y luego a las 2 de la mañana, X días, ¿verdad? Entonces, ¿de qué manera se puede hacer? A lo mejor una barda, a lo mejor árboles más sembrados, de la manera que yo no quiero lastimar al vecino, ¿verdad? Y el arquitecto me puede orientar en eso. Entonces la manera que yo me imagino que puedo no afectarlo es con una barda, con árboles, de alguna manera que no se le afecte a la privacidad de mi vecino, ¿verdad? Porque si no, ¿cómo se progresa? Si no se invierte.
Mire, una situación que le quiero explicar, no sé si va todo a lo mismo, pero lo que la experiencia nos ha enseñado, que hay un salón aquí en San Juan que básicamente ha habido sobre los años mucho complaints, quejas, por hecho del sonido,
Sí.
¿verdad? Todo, y tenemos una ordenanza que habla de qué tan recio puede ser ese sonido. Y muchas de las veces lo que hemos encontrado es que sí pasamos mucho tiempo con la policía y ir a decirle se baja, pero ya sigue el siguiente evento otra vez. Y los vecinos estaban ahí antes que entrar el negocio. Creo que eso es donde la diferencia, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Entonces, teniendo esa experiencia que hemos tenido por el hecho del sonido y que se incomoda mucho porque no vas a estar ahí tú para regularlo. Cuando se haga el complaint es cuando nos damos cuenta, ¿verdad? Ahora, unas cosas que se han dicho que podían haber soluciones, pero ya el dueño no quería invertir más y pues realmente no necesitaba porque el permiso ya estaba en el edificio. Era el tipo de pader que se podía haber ponido, el material para poder sostener el sonido a una frecuencia adentro del edificio que no tenía que afectar lo demás. Todo en el material, y no trato de explicarle a cuál, porque yo no lo conozco. Esas son unas de las cosas que hemos experimentado por hecho de otros edificios. ¿Qué son las cosas que su arquitecto o el ingeniero le está proponiendo para ese tipo de problema? ¿Cuál es uno del más grande que es la queja aquí?
Sí, bueno, me decía, yo comenté con él, sería una barda y sería sembrar árboles. Aquí realmente como el concepto es de que sea palapas al aire libre, sería muy difícil, cambia todo el concepto y se convierte en un salón de eventos, ¿verdad? Totalmente, ¿verdad? Y como le digo, es para mí muy difícil porque tengo que estar sujeto y obediente a las leyes que ustedes digan, pero también es muy difícil para mí haber invertido $165,000 después de un sí, que no me dijeron, pues me dijeron aquí tan solemnemente como estamos ahorita, ¿verdad? Y luego decir esto, oye, pues fíjate que no, ¿verdad? Entonces, imagínense, para mí el problema, yo sé que es igual de importante un vecino que 10 que 20, yo sé que sí, ahí hay un vecino, es cierto, ¿verdad? Es cierto, pero yo hubiera sido perfectamente la vez pasada que me paré que decía, bueno, si no se puede, pues no, o sea, no hay problema, ustedes me dicen que no se puede porque todas las situaciones legales, por la cuestión de respeto a terceros, a mi vecino, pues no pasa nada. Yo ya había dado una especie de seguro, un bono a la persona que me vendía, le digo, si me la aprueban, te compro, y si no, pues yo pierdo ese bono, ¿verdad? Entonces le di el bono, ya me estaba arriesgando a perder, ¿verdad? Si me hubiera dicho que no, pues yo pierdo el bono. Pero me dijeron que sí, y luego, bueno, ya cerré a los días que siguen, ¿verdad? Entonces, sí entiendo la posición de ustedes como que son los guardas del orden y de la ley de la ciudad, sí lo entiendo, pero yo como ciudadano, como inversionista, estoy haciendo lo más, créame, se asombraría de ver cuántas cosas me sugieren, hazle por aquí, hazle por acá, le hubieras dicho, mentiritas aquí. No, mentiritas no, o sea, lo quiero para eso, para esas horas, no voy a echar mentiras que no más piñatas, y no es cierto. Yo le digo a mi hija, no, porque cuando yo no quiero problemas, nunca he tenido problemas de ese tipo. Entonces, si me hubiera dicho entonces que no, pues no pasa nada. Me dijeron que sí, yo voy, compro, y sí, y de repente lo que parece un trámite, pues se convierte en una realidad para mí peligrosa, ¿verdad? Y yo estoy de acuerdo, porque estoy de acuerdo perfectamente, pero yo no puedo entender, sí respeto la ley, pero una ordenanza nueva que mande hacia atrás. Es difícil que todo se actualice con todo, podrá ser de aquí para adelante, ¿verdad? Ese es mi concepto, ¿verdad? Entonces yo quiero cooperar en todo lo posible, pero como usted bien dice, bueno, en un recinto cerrado, pues se pone más aislante, se pueden hacer mil cosas, pero así como lo tenemos planeado, van a surgir otra serie de inconvenientes, regulaciones, y es imposible que en un evento de fiestas no haya ruido. Eso es, por más desde el montón de carros, o sea, es difícil, ¿verdad? Yo por eso pedí permiso, ¿verdad?
Una pregunta, por favor.
Sí.
¿Hasta ahorita nomás hay una queja?
Que yo tengo entendido, sí, porque nomás hay un solo vecino y que queda a mi lado izquierdo.
Ok.
Y al lado derecho, más al fondo, hay una iglesia que hasta donde yo sé ellos no han tenido inconveniente con eso.
Ok. Y esa persona o familia que tiene la queja, o a lo mejor el señor Cervantes me puede decir más, ¿qué tan lejos queda del salón?
Está pues colindando, el terreno como usted lo ve es muy angosto y muy profundo, y pues nos divide la cerca nada más. Yo entiendo que en el lugar en donde él vive coincide con el estacionamiento propiamente, no estrictamente con el local, ¿verdad? Pero yo le echaría mentiras si porque vamos a estar 100 pies más adentro o 50 pies más adentro, el ruido se va a escuchar, ¿verdad?
Y entonces, ¿el vecino, Mr. Cervantes, is considered residential? And crossing that line is commercial?
En una casa en una zona comercial.
Okay.
La zona es comercial, pero él tiene una
And
casa ahí.
do we know when we deemed this area commercial? How long ago, by any
I
chance?
think it was in the 90s that the city zoned the whole 495 corridor.
And it fronts 495.
Yeah, and it's a commercial corridor, and I envision that Mr. Eastwood he has a farmland. Mr. Eastwood, he owns all this property, so he farms it, and then he has his house right here. But eventually, that's going to be a commercial plaza with a residential subdivision in the back. It's only a matter of time before that happens.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Cervantes, the last time that he came before us, it was for the rezoning, correct? And did we go against planning and zoning to rezone?
Yes,
We
yes, you did.
Right? Okay. So, okay.
And when the zoning went before you last year, he expressed to
Right.
you that that was the intent.
Exactly, and that, yeah,
Yes.
that was my recollection, that we
Yes,
were
he
in
told you
favor
back
of
then
the
that that was the intent of the commercial
Right.
property, commercial zoning.
So it didn't change, the opinion of the planning and zoning did not change. They were still in
Well-
denial. You're still in favor of it.
Yes,
Am I
it's-
correct?
yes,
Okay,
I recommend approval.
thank you.
No, ma'am.
Are there any other comments? Gracias, señor. Are there any other comments? You need to come to the, up to the podium, please. I've got Mr. Trevino, and then you can come forward, sir.
Mayor, Commissioners, where exactly, I'm confused. You know, where exactly is this property at?
Cervantes, can you be more specific?
Aquí está la 495,
Okay.
aquí está la Veterans,
Mhm.
aquí está el ditch. So it's kind of, aquí está there's a church right there.
Okay.
It's kind of a long property. And then Mr. Eastwood has his house right here, and he farms.
Okay, now I know.
He farms the rest of the property.
But it was already a commercial zone long before he came along.
The commercial zoning was up to here. And then he came in and requested additional commercial
Mhm.
to here.
Correct. I don't know. I'm not an engineer or an architect, but I mean, isn't there things like certain type of installations that, you know, that can be brought forth?
I think, Mr. Trevino, what I was trying to get to and what he explained is this
Yeah.
is an open concept. This is not a building.
Okay.
That's the difference between what we
Okay.
existing have. Now, the ordinance that we are talking about is, when did it come into effect, Mr. Cervantes?
It was in February, that we amended the ordinance.
See, so
And we
it's
included.
So it's an open concept of a building.
the difference here, from the time that it was approved to the time we get here, is an ordinance that has been installed,
Correct.
that we have approved. So now there's a conflict between, why it was approved a year ago,
Uh-huh.
the ordinance that came into play, and now deeming it that it would be in a violation.
Okay. Then I was wrong, because being a closed building, there's,
It's not a violation, it only says that it requires a conditional use permit.
You
But
have a
it's not a-
zero noise.
yes.
That's gonna be in violation.
Correct.
There's no zero noise. So how do we reconcile that, council, when it was approved for him? Because he's right, it was approved for him. There was no such thing in existence. Now, we've passed some things since then, not remembering, you know, this might be one of others that's gonna show up. So how do you reconcile something like that with a law?
Either grandfathering him in or some sort of variance or, you know, something that has to be done for him, since you've done that, since you passed it.
Because, I mean, I understand exactly what he says, but in passing a new ordinance, this is what gets created, so.
And not lose sight that in the future, Mayor, that if it's a closed building, certain things can be done to keep the noise out.
But
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
but that's not the
Yeah,
situation.
correct.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, you had a comment?
Yes, ma'am. I understand both sides, but I do agree with what the attorney says, that he should be grandfathered in, because, I mean, you can't change the rules. This man spent a lot of money. And if you go there and say, well, it's zero noise, it's not his fault that he bought the money saying, you know, I can do this business or whatever it's gonna be. But yes, I agree, you know, soundproof walls or whatever, but I think it should be grandfathered. I mean, and a neutral zone, meaning that it's not fair to him to say, oh, it's zero tolerance now, you know, zero sound. So now he spends his money, he's stuck like Chuck. You know, he needs to be treated fair. And I think
This
fair
would-
is grandfather him in.
So this would be exempt for the resident next. they could not
Well, you
follow
know, you
the
can't
ordinance.
please everybody. I mean, you're trying to bring businesses in. You got one house up there. I know that somebody's got to give and take, so they're gonna have to somehow, some other, get an attorney, sit together, make some kind of agreement. And, because I feel that he needs to be grandfathered in. It's not fair. And I don't like to get involved with stuff like this, but it just doesn't seem right. Yeah, well, you know who taught me,
I
right?
appreciate your opinion, Mr. Navarro. So, council, do we have enough here if we were to? I mean, my thought is, if we need to do one step before something more gets done, so we're not conflicting the city out, and then because if the call comes from this person regarding noise, then we have to be able to say, no, we're not gonna enforce it because of this, or we have to enforce it because of this, so.
Can we make it part of our conditional use permit that we're not gonna have an issue with the noise because of
It's,
what
it's already in the ordinance, that there shall be, it's already in the ordinance,
it is?
that there shall be no noise to the surrounding property. Now, then it goes back to how you define noise, right?
Okay.
Because sound is not noise, right?
So you're saying that we can make it part of the conditional use permit to
It's-
take care of this noise
It's
issue?
it's already in the ordinance,
It is.
that no noise shall be heard from the surrounding properties. It's already there.
But that takes care of this individual? Because he
Well,
will make noise, right? He's gonna make.
Yeah, but he is proposing to build a black wall, an 8-foot black wall. He's proposing to build, to plant trees. And I recommended to them that they have a security officer there during the parties to keep the noise down. So there are things that they can do to minimize the noise.
There are things that he can do, but the situation is that we have an ordinance that says no noise, right? That we passed subsequent to his purchase. of the
No,
property.
what we adopted was to make social event centers conditional use permits. That's what we changed in the ordinance, because that wasn't there before. We have a noise ordinance and it's been there for many years. What was changed is that we made this type of uses conditional uses.
What happens though if he does what he's gonna do, you know, the trees and the block, but someone still complains about the noise?
Well, then we will have to get like a noise reader to see, what is the level of noise.
Yeah, I had a question for that.
Police does.
Do we have something, does it state anywhere in any of our documentation does it say 0 noise, or does it have a range of decibels to where you can be at?
In the noise ordinance, I think it's 70 decibels.
Commissioner, it does have, we have a noise ordinance, in the loud music, and it's 85 decibels.
Okay,
So 85 decibels from the actual location to where the actual contaminant is at. So, that's how we work on the different areas where we do loud music halls and also some, social events.
okay, and we have, obviously, we have ways of measuring that, correct?
Yeah, we carry, decibel reading with us, and, from the complaint is standing, and, we register where the noise comes from.
Okay.
Usually 99% of the time, it doesn't go over, because it's too far.
Right.
It has to be real close next door, or, when it's, like, if it's building right across the street and all that.
Okay, thank you.
It's an open area, it will be kind of,
Yeah.
Okay, then you stand corrected, because on page 4, Mr. Cervantes, you mentioned to the planning and zoning, your comment is, Mr. Cervantes listed on the report that 0 noise is one of the requirements.
Yeah, to the
Okay,
surrounding
so
property.
what's the confusion here? Is that not just conflicting what he said?
Well, is the noise ordinance. You go by the noise ordinance.
Which says 0.
It's the 85.
Okay, but you said
decibel.
0. You told.
No, it's
Then
noise. It's
why
how-
is the minute
it's-
saying that you said
It's
0?
how you define noise. You go by the noise ordinance.
So if it's, where did you get 0 though?
No, that's a mistake in the,
The minutes
In
are
the
wrong?
minutes, yeah.
You never said 0?
no.
And where do you define that? I guess I'm just, to avoid whatever decision we're gonna make, because in one way, it's either gonna be in his favor, or it's gonna be the request of the resident. Whichever one that happens, I think we have to have the appropriate wording of why it was denied or why it is approved. And then the remedy for whoever needs to proceed. Because I think if we're saying sound and noise, and I think it needs to be clear today. I'd like it to be cleared up so that when anybody calls, police officers know what they're going to do based on what's just happened. And if we're going to issue out a waiver of any kind, then how do we reconcile that so that we're not held responsible when they're trying to enforce or telling somebody, don't respond to that call? That's what I want. We can clear it up.
No, they still have to comply with the noise ordinance.
They still have to comply with the noise
Yeah,
ordinance.
they have
which
to
is
comply.
they can't go beyond 85.
Exactly.
So in this case, if it goes beyond 85, then he's going to have problems
With the police department.
with the police department. And I mean, is there a risk that it's going to go beyond the 85?
Hmm?
Is there a risk that it's going to go beyond the 85? I mean, will he have issues? He's going to have the police out there.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a constant violation, then you could revoke the conditional use permit.
So are you saying just go ahead and approve it, and if it's a constant violation, then you're going to revoke it?
No, it will be up to the city commission.
To revoke it at another time,
Yeah,
if they
in the
come back
future.
with so many complaints?
Yeah, if it's constant complaints and the police,
Mayor Commission, the way it works is the fact that we do have a city ordinance for loud music, but also on that city ordinance, we have options. We have, and the option is that anybody that wants to have like a party or have an event, they have to come and request a permit from the police department. They pay $10 for that permit. But that permit specifically says that they cannot go over those decibel readings of 85 or over. And like I mentioned before, we usually, when we have these kinds of events, people have like, the radio stations have sometimes the events, stuff like that, and they're real loud. But as long as they provide us and get a permit, and we only allow it to a certain amount of hours, like if it's 12 o'clock, then it's at 12 o'clock, stops. So we get a call, we send an officer, and we shut it down right then and then. But you know, and this is the type of events that I'm looking at, you know, just by hearing this, but there is an option for that. Like I mentioned, the 85 decibels is real, the reading is real difficult to always get. So it's usually never a violation because it's too far and the wind carries a lot of the noise, you know, all the time. So that's all the things that we.
Bottom line is the noise ordinance takes care of this situation. That's
Yes.
what you're saying, both of you.
That is correct.
Okay, so then it would take care of it, Mayor. If it gets too loud, then the noise ordinance tells you what the definition is of this.
Yeah, it's a state law. It's a misdemeanor violation. So, and it's like anything else. And the ordinance is been approved by the council already a couple years
But
ago.
I mean, it has a definition. If it gets
Sure.
beyond the 85, then that's a violation.
Yes,
So
that is
that
correct.
definition is clear in the noise ordinance. So that would take care of it. That's the concern that you're raising?
That's a concern, and I want to let you know, le quiero dejar saber que a ese punto, y no sé qué va a hacer la comisión, pero a ese punto, si se aprueba, usted va a entender que va a haber una ley que va a decir ordenanza que no puedes subir más. El permiso que tú quieres es condicional. Si se está violando esta ordenanza y viene para atrás, y a este punto tú ya hiciste tu evento, ya invertiste el dinero y le pusiste, esta comisión puede decir ya no le des el permiso. So, entonces, eso te va a poner a ti, ¿verdad? Ahorita en notice, que va a ser muy importante que estés muy consciente de lo que está pasando con las personas que vienen a tu lugar y se están comprometiendo, están haciendo sus eventos del tipo de fuerza en el ruido que se va a hacer. Porque estamos dejando aquí entre nosotros cuando se tenga que renovar el hecho. Y lo que hacemos es cuando viene ya para un año, pidemos reportes de la policía. ¿Qué tantas veces se reportó? ¿Qué es lo que está pasando? A ese punto, ¿verdad? Sí tenemos ese opción de quitarlo. Entendiendo eso, tú te vas a meter en este negocios o ese tipo de eventos sabiendo que eso está ahí permitido, para que no va a decir un año más, ¿sabes qué? Hice el edificio y mira, ahora right? So, entendemos lo que se platicó ahorita, sir. ¿Se entendió? Okay. Pásale para acá. Thank you, Chief.
Mire, para que no quedara nada más en un acto de fe de parte mía o de confianza de parte de ustedes,
Right?
debe haber un aparato que se ponga, que mida los decibeles que están saliendo del salón, ¿verdad? Como los vehículos que no deben de correr a más de cuántas millas por hora, y es una alarma. Entonces, imagínense si yo me atrevería a invertir, no sé, una cantidad 3 veces más grande que lo que llevo ahorita, para perderle un año, pues yo sería el más inocente si hiciera eso, ¿verdad? Entonces, yo como podría comprobar eso, tener un aparato que mida los decibeles que hay en el salón, que no depende de lo que yo diga, ¿verdad? Que la policía pueda verificarlo y decir, pues esos son los decibeles que están registrados, que son legales, y si le molestan o no le molestan al vecino, pero yo estoy dentro de lo legal, y de ahí para abajo, pues yo no voy a invertir, por decir un número, $500,000 para perderlos en un año. Soy el menos que se arriesgaría a eso. el menos, ¿verdad? Yo como veo ahorita la situación, a lo mejor me limito a hacer cosas más en la tarde, más en la mañana, ¿verdad? Pero tampoco puedo limitarme. Si un día me dicen, bueno, es un evento en la noche, bueno, déjame, vamos a respetar la ley, ¿verdad? Quiero tener la opción de hacer algo en la noche legalmente. A lo mejor me conviene dedicarme a las tardes, nada más, para no tener problemas. Pero si se ofrece en la noche, pues se hace en la noche, tengo el permiso, habrá no sé qué tecnología que diga, mira, son tantos decibeles los que están saliendo y no me he salido de ahí, ¿verdad? Los que la ciudad tenga como legales. Yo entiendo que en cualquier lugar hay un nivel de decibeles permitido, entonces estar abajo de eso. En eso yo soy el más interesado. Y claro que acepto la responsabilidad.
Claro, y eso es ya cosa que tú vas a hacer con los contratos con las personas que te renten o como tú vas a tener tu negocio, ¿verdad? Nomás sabiendo también que hasta al tanto, porque se comienza a reportar, ya comienza a llegar a nosotros esos reportes de lo que está pasando.
Sí, como le digo, ahí porque pues lo lógico sería, es que no es cierto que decir, mira, está el aparato que está registrando, estoy en, no sé si 80, 60, los decibeles que toquen, estoy para abajo, al señor se le hace mucho, a aquel no se le hace mucho, yo estoy en el número legal, ¿verdad? Eso es una cosa que yo quería hacer para que no quedara un acto de palabra, nada más así, ¿verdad?
Chief, what do those things run for? What is something like that he's talking about? Would that be something we would put as a requirement, or does that not?
They're very inexpensive, about $100.
Okay.
And they're very active. They're certified by the state.
Okay. Bueno, ya no tengo preguntas. Gracias. Anybody else from the public? Any other members? Can you come forward, please? State your name for the record.
My name is Victor Gonzalez. We have the church there right next to them. I don't see no problem with it. We've been there for more than 20 years. Of course, we have plenty of walls. We make noise as well. We're a Christian church, a Pentecostal church, and I don't see no problem. Nomás lo que sí le recomiendo él es el owner que compró allí. Sí recomendamos de que respete nuestro propiedad, amen. Si va a haber un evento y hay mucho parqueadero, mucha gente, que respete nuestra propiedad. It's fenced up, pero nosotros dejamos las doors abiertas at all times, 24/7. They're open all the time. No queremos que sea un problema para nosotros. Nosotros tenemos servicio los Wednesdays, on Fridays, Sunday in the morning and Sunday in the evening. Nomás comprendiendo que nunca ha habido problema. Nosotros hemos ruido ahí. Of course, we don't have neighbors yet. We have a business on the site que es a mechanic, but I don't know what they're going to do on the back side of the church or on the side, because actually we have, as you can see, it's a big place that we have. I think we have more than 3.5 acres to 4 acres there. Y todo está fenced up. Eso es lo que nosotros, yo soy el co-pastor de la iglesia, okay? Y es lo que quisiera nosotros, que se respetara, porque es un lugar santo. Amen. Si van a hacer un evento que no es cristiano, aunque fuera cristiano, no permitimos parqueadero. Porque así como él va a tener su propiedad ahí, él también quiere que nosotros respeten lo de él, ¿verdad? Así nomás que respeten el lugar que tenemos, que es de todos, ¿verdad? Pero los eventos que él vaya a tener, que respete nuestro parqueadero. Because we have plenty of parking. As you can see, it's a big place.
Sure.
¿Verdad? So that's what we want from our part.
Thank you, sir. I
Okay,
appreciate
thank
that. Any other members of the public who wish to make a comment? Any other members of the come forward, state your name, please.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Juan
Buenas tardes.
González, así como el chief de police, ¿verdad? Bonito nombre. Primeramente felicito todo el panel de la City San Juan, que han hecho muy buen trabajo. Yo sé que van a seguir haciendo buen trabajo. Yo soy el senior pastor de la iglesia, Juan González. Mi papá fue pastor de ahí por muchos años, el reverendo Alfredo González. Yo soy el licenciado Juan González. Y pues todos tienen un derecho para hacer su negocio o propiedad donde quieran, ¿verdad? Como dice mi hermano, nosotros estamos enseguida hacia el west side de la propiedad de la 701 de ellos, nosotros la 708. Y como todos, si nosotros andamos cortando un zacate y quebramos un vidrio, nosotros lo pagamos, ¿verdad? Y hay, como dice mi hermano, el co-pastor, tenemos cerca todo alrededor. Muchas las veces puede que un mueble de otra parte, si se van a estacionar, puede que le peguen a la cerca y queremos que el dueño sea responsable si es de que haya un damage a la cerca, ¿me entiende? Porque a veces que uno no está poniendo atención a todo y le puede dar más gas al vehículo y puede que se lleve la cerca encima. Ya no la hicieron una vez, pero hit and run, no supimos quién fue. We have that camera and that video and all that, pero no se ve las placas, y cosas que van y nos rompean atrás del templo, van y dejan mugrero de colchones, nos dejan sofás y así cuánto, y pues uno nomás lo recoge y lo va y lo tira, porque uno no quiere andar gastando dinero para andar investigando quién hizo eso. Pero de todo modo, sí tiene el señor derecho de hacer lo que él quiera, ¿verdad? Y yo no sé con los demás vecinos que vaya a tener, porque sé que para la Northwest Corner va a haber una casa de residenciales por ahí, más no sé si hay gente que la vaya a perjudicar. Ahora, yo no tengo claro qué es lo que se va a hacer en ese grande lote que está ahí, exactamente, no sé si tengan un floor plan, dónde quieren poner los edificios y todo ello.
Can you go to the screen that shows the layout, please? There's a screen that has the layout, right there. Mire, Mr. González.
Ok, ¿nos puede explicar? Ok, todo eso es enclosed, ¿verdad? ¿Está encerrado todo ello? ¿El edificio?
No, es un tipo estilo palapa.
Palapa.
Y todo el estacionamiento te queda atrás, nomás el edificio está enfrente.
Ok.
Entonces, para evitar ruido, era poner árboles, y como el viento es de sureste,
Muchas la veces, ¿verdad? Sí.
te lo cambia, te ayuda para que se vaya el ruido silencioso.
¿Cuántos pies es de ahí por decir, el sidewalk or from the property donde empieza la palapa? 100 pies. Sí, pues como dice Chief of Police Juan González, que todo tiene su sonido, ¿verdad? Tiene que estar controlado. Muchas las veces, yo vivo ahí por la Scotty Street, muchas las veces hay gente que tiene sonido, pero no se oye tanto sonido, nomás el puro pum, pum, pum. Oiga, y eso hasta te pega, ¿verdad?
Hay ordenanza,
Hay
ya sabes.
ordenanza, sí. Yo
Repórtalo.
creo, Mr. Ramírez también lo vio a time, porque él fue vecino mío, él a tiempo también oía que se oía el ruidazo ese, y cuando estás enfermo, oyes, hasta la cabeza te duele. Pero era nomás lo que quería yo saber, más o menos qué es lo que iba a ver ahí, porque no se había puesto en el pizarrón qué es lo que iba a ver. Pero como yo, el senior pastor, ahí no tenemos ningún problema.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other members of the public for or against? Any comments? Any other comments?
Chief, Mayor.
Yes.
I do have just one more question for the chief. Chief, we have another place like this in the city of San Juan that is not surrounded by one home but by many with the same concept. Have you had any trouble there at all?
No significant problems at all. We do have some calls, but nothing significant.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? ¿Se entendió, sir? Entendemos todo. Okay, very good. What's the capacity?
That has not been determined. It's based on the final floor plans, and the building official and the fire marshal that
So
determine
the space, in order to, the question was a space according to the determination of how many parking spaces, you determine it on square footage?
Yeah, we came up with 51 parking spaces required based on what's proposed here. If they propose to make it bigger, then they're gonna have to put more parking spaces.
So Mayor, are we gonna come back like in a year from now and see if there was any type of violations?
We have to.
You know, my question is, how are we gonna determine whether his license should be revoked if, let's just say,
It's from the police report.
okay, but when you're talking about violations, are we talking maybe 5 or we're talking about 30 a year? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
is there
but-
anything set, chief, that we have in plan as far as that goes? Well, yeah, I understand that, but, I mean, if he has 1 violation or 2 for the year, I mean, to bring it up to the commission, you understand what I'm saying?
Commissioner, the way that I addressed it in any complaints is willing to correct the problem or the unwillingness to cooperate with us.
Okay.
So those places that they just don't accept any conditions or they don't abide by our request when we go out there and we tell them to turn down the music or cease and go ahead and end the particular event. Those are the situations that we want. So we have had some situations in which we go out there, 3 or 4 times during the night, and they just don't want to cooperate with us. So that's the type of report that we forward to them. Is, you know what, this is something that we need to look at because the people just don't want to cooperate. They got a very unwillingness to accept the conditions, and they're constant violation of the 85 decimals all over. So those are the things that we address. So it has to be a totality of the circumstances that the owner does not want to participate. Whoever's playing the band does not want to reduce the noise, and they just total disregard for the welfare of the citizens around that area. So that's I look at the overall, not the single violations. Since we started with this back in 2010, believe it, 2010, with loud music ordinance, we have very limited calls. We have a lot of calls, but very limited situations in which actually we have problems. People comply real quick. They comply. We do have many calls throughout the year, of course, and especially on your holiday stuff like that. But we go out there and people just turn off the music, and even if it's a band playing or something like that, they comply. So we just look at the totality of the circumstances.
All right, thank you, chief.
Anything else?
No, that was it.
All right, everything's on the record, and it's understood by those asking for the permit and this commission if it so desires to grant it. Anything else, Mr. Cervantes?
No.
If not, is there a motion for, no, there is no motion for approval at this point, is there?
I need a motion.
I think you need to close the
Yeah,
public
that's
hearing.
what I was
Close
gonna
the
do.
public hearing and
That's what I
then
meant.
I need a motion.
It's 6:47, closing of this public hearing. Now, is there a motion for approval as requested?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are you recommending approval?
Yes.
You are,
Approval.
okay. All in
Subject to
favor?
the conditions in the packet. There's a list of conditions.
Are we adding the condition for the decimal thingy?
Well, they already have to comply with the noise ordinance.
Okay, and you're saying that's enough?
Yeah.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Consider the ordinance in the first reading amended the code of the ordinance section 1302, solid waste, providing for addition of the stormwater pollution prevention fee to the sanitation rates. Mr. Cervantes.
Yes, as discussed during the budget meetings, the attached ordinance will create a stormwater pollution prevention division under the general fund as a special revenue account. This division will ensure that the city's roadways will be free of dirt and dust and will do a better job patching potholes through the use of a road patcher as shown in the attached illustrations. The way to fund this division is by placing an additional fee in the utility bill for this purpose that will be connected to the city's sanitation rates. As proposed in the ordinance, residential customers will not see an increase in their utility bill since the sanitation fee will be lowered by the amount of the proposed new stormwater fee, which is slated to be $1.55 per month per account. For the commercial accounts, an additional stormwater fee is proposed depending on the level of service for sanitation. Businesses will benefit from this service by making the streets cleaner and free of potholes. Stormwater pollution prevention helps keep the Arroyo Colorado free of contaminants and will help the city continue to be in compliance with the CEQ on this aspect. The ordinance is for your consideration. So, like I mentioned, on the residential accounts, there will not see an increase because we will be lowering the sanitation rate.
By the same amount.
Yeah, so it's a wash on the residential accounts. but on the commercial accounts, they will see an increase depending on the, if it's a 90-gallon commercial for the small businesses, they will see a $2 increase in their utility bill. If they have a 300-gallon once a week, it will be 6.75. 300-gallon twice a week, 13.50.
That's per month? but not-
Per month.
Okay.
300-gallon 3 times a week, 20.25. 6 cubic yard 2 times a week, $24. 8 cubic yard 3 times a week, $40, and 8 cubic yard 5 times a week, $66.60. The good thing, I mean, it's not good to, the one advantage for the businesses is that they can deduct this expense from, it's a business expense for them. So at least they get a break on their income taxes. So it's either Uncle Sam or the City of San Juan. Well, we prefer the City of San Juan. And this will allow us to finance the street sweeper. It will allow us to finance the road patcher, the materials that those machines will require, the funding to hire the drivers for both machines. The drivers will be paid from this account. And we're hoping to have money left over that we could use for asphalt to patch the potholes. Right now, the asphalt comes out of the general fund. If we have money left over in this account, then we could start paying for it through this. This is something that will really help the general fund, and will get us those machines that we want.
I do have a question. Have we taken a look at what we might be looking at as far as revenue per month on this?
Where Mr. Garza comes in.
Mr. Garza, you can also address the usage of that monies to transfer into the general fund line item.
Yes, this is actually help the general fund because what we plan to do is we plan to purchase the equipment on a 7-year contract, right? Once we pay for the equipment, then the actual revenue that it's going to be coming in, it's going to be for the general fund. It's going to benefit the general fund, right? And then after 10 years, what we can do is probably buy new equipment, right? Or new something like that. Well, our plan, our monthly revenue that we plan is to bring, it's $20,760. And we are talking on a yearly basis, it's going to be $249,000 per year.
What's the amount?
In a month, per month, it's $20,760, and per year, it's going to be $249,000.
And again, it's this, well, I'm not going to say it won't affect residential, but it'll actually affect them in a good way, because their bill will.
Will go up.
The sanitation fund will take a little hit because we're reducing the sanitation fee 1.55. So the sanitation fund will take a little bit of a hit, but since we're issuing permits for new houses and we're issuing permits for new businesses, eventually we will recover.
How long does it take to recover?
It'll take a few years, but the sanitation fund, is my understanding, is very healthy.
It's healthy.
So can take a little hit, and eventually we will recover.
Are there any other questions?
No, Mayor.
Not, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Aye.
We're gonna try to have these machines as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Cervantes. Under item 7, bids and contracts, A, consider the selection and appointment of the underwriters in connection with the issue and sale and delivery of the City of San Juan, Texas, General Obligation Refunding Bonds Series 2015 and Combination Tax and Limited Pledge Revenue Certificates of Obligation Series 2015. I believe Mr. Arjona?
Yes, Mayor, City Council, this is back in April 2015 was approved the certificates of obligations. I believe Mr. Vela is here, so we can answer any questions that we may have.
Mr. Vela, you want to come forward in case there are any questions, please? So this is the next stage, Mr. Vela?
Hopefully the final stage, Mayor, before, prior to delivery of the certificate and refunding bond proceeds. This is the last step in the process. this process dates back to April and March, where the planning process of the street improvement programs began. And consequently, we have developed this program and added the component of the refundings to allow the savings of debt service that we can use towards the repayment of the debt. An interesting thing happened, and that was that the Federal Open Market Committee met on Thursday, and at the same level or Fed for the overnight rates. And that had an impact on the bond market that turned it into a rally. And that means that instead of rates going up, they went down. And we have seen that in the last couple of days, if you will, of last week and on Friday as well. So the market started repricing itself to make it in layman's terms in the direction that benefits the city and the taxpayers of the city of San Juan. That means down. So hopefully we're getting into an environment that is conducive to selling the paper. We're looking at next month. We're starting to finalize a lot of the documents. We have a lot of homework to do with Mr. Garza, the CFO, and obviously Mr. Arjona, who came in tonight, we welcome. We have a lot of coordination to do with him. And Mayor and members of the City Commission, we've had these discussions with you in the past, the challenge that we will be facing, on a going forward basis. As to the actual selection of the underwriters, there's been a couple of firms that have shown an interest in participating in the program. One of them is Stevens, a regional firm out of Little Rock, Arkansas, and Stifel Nicholas, which is more of a larger national firm out of St. Louis. Stevens first approached us back in April after reading in the newspapers the activities of the city and going forward, and showed an interest in participating in the financing program. Stifel and Stevens provided initial contact around that time in April, and then subsequently followed up in July and has been calling, periodically. Stifel followed about a month after the July contact from Stevens, and I would say somewhere middle to latter part of August, somewhere in that area, or maybe even early August, I should say, and has followed up as well. In a neighboring city where we had a similar situation of a couple of firms that have been wanting to participate in the business, the approach that we wound up using in the selection was rewarding the firm that came in first. In the case of this neighboring city, not only did we reward the first firm that came in, but we also rewarded the second firm with a smaller participation in the transaction, what we call a co-manager for the second firm or a senior manager for the first firm. The underwriting side of it, Mayor, takes it beyond sometimes the financial advisor's expertise, so we have to rely on our underwriting desk to provide us guidance in determining what is the best route. So after conferring with our underwriting desk, we were told our initial approach was to use the same approach that we had used with the neighboring city. In other words, a 60-40 type of sharing senior co-manager. And our underwriting desk said, because, and you will remember, Mayor and members of the City Commission, that we're selling under $10 million worth of paper, which was that bank qualified for the lower interest cost that also is attached. And that is normally marketed to commercial banks. The member on my desk suggested that we might convolute the transaction by going with two, and suggested that we go with one. So if we take the paradigm of the neighboring community in rewarding the the first firm that came, and only because of this BQ situation that we're talking about, I think that that's a good model to follow, if you will.
And as far as acquiring services, Ms. Gonzalez, I mean, is this exempt from what we typically do for services as far as going out for any type of
Professional services.
professional service, going out for
Yes,
any
ma'am.
kind of quotes?
Correct.
And what was the name that you recommended again, please?
We mentioned that the first one that contacted the city was Stevens.
And you worked with them before?
We have.
You're satisfied with their services?
Yes, ma'am. And the other assurance that you have is from First Southwest, that our underwriting desk will coordinate with the underwriter to make sure that the city gets a marketable rate at sale.
Are there any questions for Mr. Vela? If none, is there a motion to approve his recommendation of the firm is it the firm Stevens?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Garza, second. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Vela. Appreciate it.
The next step, Mayor, is
Yes,
going
sir.
to be the preliminary documents and going forwards and the ratings and all of that. So we'll keep the city abreast.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
B, consider authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for audit services for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2015. Ms. Gonzalez?
The city went out for proposals, and we received 4 firms. One of the firms is here. It was the recommendation of the finance director to recommend Reina and Garza. He feels that since he is new, he would like to, he would get a better understanding of the financials for the city.
I don't agree with that recommendation. I'm going to tell you why. One of the things that we have practiced in the past here in the city is after so many years, we go out for the different contracts for proposals. One of the things that I know when we were looking at this bond issuance, we also talked about the need to have, to be timely, and the need to have our audit ready by March. And I know our audit was late for whatever purposes, and we've had that kind of consistently with other, not Mr. Garza, but with others. And I just think it's prudent that if he's the one that gets the contract, so be it. But I think that we need to be able to talk with the people who have applied. One of the things that I try to do every time, no matter who it is and what professional service, is I like them to be before us so that we can ask them the questions, we could talk about their practices, and we could talk about their references. And I know I had an opportunity to ask Ms. Gonzalez early today if we had already asked these firms who did apply to be present, and they had not been. And I think you tried to reach out today, but of course, being that it's just the day of the presentation, I like to offer these people, I like to be able to table it, offer the folks that have applied to come forward to be able to talk to us so that we can have those questions before it, like we have with any other professional services that we have engaged in.
How many firms are here? Just
4, just 1.
one?
Yes.
Okay.
There's only one firm?
Only one is here
Oh,
There were 4 firms that
applied.
did they all know about this?
Yes, I called them. One of them couldn't make it. One is Pat, he's further up in Dallas, and one didn't answer. There's another firm? Oh.
And they were told today, so that, I
Yes.
mean, for those folks that want to be able to come in, they're not able to. And I think that we deserve to give them an opportunity to be present.
Well, Mayor, can't we hear the 2 that are here and maybe?
But we're not going to take action. Is anybody here from the Dallas firm?
No.
So they're local, and I understand that, but we just didn't follow what is typical of when we do the professional services. I think to be fair, we should be able to allow those that have applied an opportunity to speak to us. So I'm asking that we move to table this item.
The 2 that are here are local, both local?
Yes.
The recommendation, what was the recommendation?
It was a recommendation of the finance director to go with the prior auditor, Reina and Garza.
I move that we table the item.
I'm,
Second.
All in favor state aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, then go forward.
Motion to go with the director's recommendation of Reina Garza, PLLC.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Mayor, and just to be clear, Ms. Gonzalez, it's practice of the city to go out for requests for proposals or to have people come and be interviewed for the services of the auditor?
The law
Done it
state,
in the past. We
Right.
do it with our professional services. We did it the last time we hired somebody. I think it gives us an opportunity to know who we're going to be, who is applying.
We did it last year, Ms. Gonzalez?
We haven't done this in
no, last year we had one proposal.
One proposal, but you were going to interview him?
It was the same, Reina and Garza.
Just to be clear, it's not required to do it because it is professional service.
That's the choice of the commission.
Okay, but by state law, correct? Correct, it's just the recommendation?
Yes.
Fine, we can pick and choose who we decide to do it with, I suppose. Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Consider awarding bid number 15-37-0909 for the purchase of a liquid aluminum sulfate. Wait, I'd like to go back to the other item, if I may, and Mr. Garza is here present. Can I have you come forward, Mr. Garza? Very good.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening, Mr.
Members of the
Garza.
Commission. Just for the record, Juan Garza, and partner with the principals of Reina and Garza, who have been your auditor, was the auditor for the last year.
The our financial consultant, and maybe I shouldn't even bring him in because he's not here to state specifically, but one of the things when we were asking for information, be it for the budget and be it for evaluating the city, was the timeliness of the audit. Can you tell me when is a typical, if we're going to be in compliance, for example, with the CDBG folks when they ask us for our requirements, when is the requirement for submitting that?
For CBDG is June 30th, Mayor.
And when we look at the funding for the purposes of preparing the budget, what do you have been doing with the city? When did you prepare it?
I'm sorry, Mayor.
When did you prepare when was the budget, the audit ready for this year?
It was late May.
Late May. What?
Mayor, this is not on the agenda, Mayor. You've already gone, and this item has already been approved, and you're beyond it. So it's not on the agenda. So we can't address it anymore.
Then I'll address it with you because I think it's very important whether we meet or put it back on the agenda about the timeliness about the audits. So if council is saying that we can't talk about it, we're not going to talk about it, but we will talk about it at some point.
Attorney Vasquez, I would just like to address one specific question, if we may, insofar as the...
He's saying you can't.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yes,
okay,
I'm sorry.
okay. We just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
That's
okay.
fine,
Nonetheless, some subsequent point. We'd be more than delighted to come before you. Thank you, folks.
We'll put you back on the agenda.
Thank you.
C, please. Ms. Gonzalez, I've already read that on the record.
This is the routine purchase for the upcoming fiscal year 2015-16 for the water plant. It's a liquid ammonium sulfate. Chemtrade is our current vendor, and he did come in the lowest. Staff is recommending to award the bid to Chemtrade Chemicals.
Are there any questions? If not, is there a motion for approval as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
second?
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item D, consider resolution nominating the candidates for the Hidalgo County Appraisal District Board for Directors 2016-2017.
Mayor and Commissioners, good evening. The city received correspondence requesting the City of San Juan to nominate one or more 5 candidates for the Hidalgo County Appraisal District Board of Directors for 2016 and 2017. The candidates and names must be submitted to the Chief Appraiser by resolution adopted by the government body before October 15th. Therefore, I'm requesting a nomination of candidate or candidates.
Okay, I'll go ahead and open the nominations.
Mayor, if I may,
Go ahead.
I nominate Pete Garcia.
All right. Are there any other nominations? No nomination. Nomination ceased. Is there a motion to approve Pete Garcia?
So move.
It was moved by Commissioner Garza, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. E, consider adopting a resolution of the support for the ongoing implementation and promotion of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals and Deferred Action for Parents and Americans and Lawful Permanent Residents DAPA programs. Mr. Arjona?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Mayor, City Council, this is a resolution for the Lupe program. I know there's a couple of cities already took part of it. Representatives are here. You mind coming to the?
Please come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for allow us to put the resolution before you. We just wanted to let you know that we already had the City of Edinburgh pass this resolution, the City of Alton, and also the City of Westlaco. Right now we're going to do a presentation in the County of Cameron on the 25th of this month, and we're also trying to put this resolution on the Hidalgo County. The purpose of this resolution is for you to support I guess it's a gesture of support to this program that has been on hold because of the lawsuit that's been happening. So we're asking for the different cities to support this, and then we're going to be using, obviously, your name for publication, to make it public. There is the media has been keeping track of the cities who approved this resolution, and that's all you what you do is just as a signing or approving this resolution. They will benefit the parents of children who are citizens, and obviously these parents don't have documents, but they will, if DAPA happens, then they will be able to get a permit to work and to get the driver license to be able to stay here with temporary for 2 years or 3 years, depends on what is the outcome of the lawsuit. So obviously you'll be helping the economy of the city of San Juan in the name of the 7,000 members that we have in La Unión del Pueblo Entero. Then we're asking you to pass this resolution as other cities had happened.
Very good. Let me ask you, of the membership in the Lupe that are part of this and are be affected, do you have a sense of how many in San Juan would be applying?
Of the membership that we have right now, probably 1/3, because 1/3 are citizens, and we probably 1/3 are residents trying to become citizens. So it will be like 1/3. But we know that we have huge numbers in this county. It's one of the biggest counties that will be benefiting from the DAPA program. So it will be a great benefit in showing your support. It's just giving you, you show that you care about the citizens who are right now in the shadows, and they would like to contribute fully to this economy.
Absolutely. I want to thank you for the work that you do at Lupe for all the issues, social justice issues that come before so many decision makers, and the impact it makes to our community, that you always bring it to light. So I appreciate the work that you do there. And thank you for
I also want to welcome the City Manager, Benjamin Arjona. We look forward to work with you. We did work with the other city managers before, starting with Mr. Arcaute, who was many, many years ago. And so we're really looking forward to work with you, and we do a lot of projects in the city. And welcome to this great city of San Juan. We're always very proud. This is the birth of the movement for the United Farm Workers, and we will look forward for you to visit us in our home.
Thank you. Are there any questions? If not, is there a motion for approval of this resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item F, consider preliminary and final plat approval of the Lada subdivision being 2.94 acres out of the 18-acre tract of land, being the south 6.23 acres out of Lot 3, Block 8, and north 11.77 acres out of Lot 6, Block 8, John Klausner subdivision, located approximately 1/4 mile south of Owasso Road, along the east side of Raul Longoria, as requested by R. Gutierrez Engineering Corporation. Mr. Cervantes.
Yes, Mr. Lara recently purchased the 18-acre property, and he is proposing to subdivide just the front part, which is 2.94 acres, into 4 commercial lots in order to relocate his used auto sales business in one of those lots. The other 3 lots will be future businesses, and he plans to develop the rest of the property, which is in the east side of the property, in the future as a residential subdivision. It is noted that the project engineer is requesting a variance to waive the 20-foot dedication of right-of-way along Raul Longoria Road as required by the Hidalgo County Thoroughfare Plan due to the existence of a 6-inch water line from the North Alamo Water Supply Corporation along the east side of Raul Longoria Road. The relocation of this water line will be very expensive to the owner, making it impossible to invest in the required infrastructure for the proposed subdivision. Also, a variance is being requested to not designate the utility easement along the south side of Lot 4, the north side of Lot 2, and the south side of Lot 1 in order to maximize the use of these properties. Staff recommends approval, granting the variances. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval, also granting the variances.
Any questions? My question is, if it's along Raul Longoria Estate Road, is there anything more that we would need to do for notifications about the variance waiver?
No, it's within the city limits, and the state leaves it up to the city to decide on variances.
So that would be our purview, is what you're saying?
Yes, within our jurisdiction.
Any questions? If not, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item F, I think we just did that. Item G, consider a variance request to the subdivision regulations to not require the subdivision process for the Solis Trevino unrecorded subdivision, being a re-subdivision of 14.182 acres out of lots 13 and 17, San Juan Hacienda Estates, Unit Number 1 subdivision, located along the north side of Hall Acres between Veterans Boulevard, San Antonio Avenue, is requested by the property owners in the area. Mr. Cervantes.
Yes, the property owners along the north side of Hall Acres Road, from Veterans Boulevard to San Antonio Avenue, purchased property in the 90s through illegal sales of land conducted by Mr. Solis and Mr. Trevino, who purchased the land from Mr. Otto Hafland. After many lawsuits, the property owners received deeds for their properties some years ago after a court order. The proposed Solis Trevino subdivision was processed by the city in the late 90s, but was never recorded. In addition, the area is designated, or part of the area is designated as a flood zone by the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Since the property owners are considered of moderate financial resources, and because of the special circumstances, they are requesting a waiver of the subdivision process so that they can get building and other permits without having to properly subdivide. Staff recommends approval of the variance contingent on elevation certificates and septic tank permits from the county for any new houses proposed for construction in the area. Like mentioned earlier, staff recommends hiring an engineer to properly subdivide the area for these people. This could be funded from the general fund or through the urban county program. A letter and an email from officials from the Texas Water Development Board and from the Texas Attorney General's office are attached, stating that they have no objections to the variance request. During their September 3 meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial unanimously.
Mayor, I would like to see if we can go into executive session under Government Code 551-071, Mayor.
Very good. We'll then go into executive session under the recommendation of council. And since we're going to be in executive, I want to call the other two items that are in executive session at this time. And that would be under item 9, executive session. That would be under 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.074, personal matters. A, to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, remuneration, or dismissal of public officer, employee, city manager, interim utilities director. And B, to consult and seek legal advice and counsel of the city attorney as it relates to contemplated litigation on the matter with the duty of the city attorney under the Texas disciplinary rules. Professional conduct, State Bar of Texas, clearly conflicts with the Texas Government Code 551 relating to the status of the Texas DESCON LP by DESCON 4S LLC, its general partner in the city's 3.5 MGD water treatment plant number 2 expansion and rehabilitation. We will enter executive session at 7:19. In open session at 8:21 regarding 3 items. Item G, consider a variance request to the subdivision regulations to not require the subdivision process for the Solis Trevino unrecorded subdivision being a re-subdivisions of lot 14.182 acres out of lots 13 and 17, San Juan Hacienda Estates Unit Number 1 subdivision located on north side of Hall Acres between Veterans Boulevard and San Antonio Avenues, requested by the Property Owners Council.
Yes, Mayor. Mayor, Mr. Cervantes is present, and this issue is on a variance for a subdivision. They are requesting, or the Planning and Zoning Director, and I'll let him address in a little bit, he's requesting a variance to the subdivision rules for the subdivision. And I'll go ahead and go over the issues that I had. The Texas Water Development Board provides funding for the city, and I want to make sure that for the city, on behalf of the city, that we abide by their rules in order to not affect our funding. We discussed this issue, and we, I mean Mr. Cervantes and myself, the general counsel for the Texas Water Development Board. He has indicated that if a variance is granted for electrical purposes or any other purpose that is approved by the city, that we would not have any issues with receiving funding. So I will attach the letter to the minutes, Mayor, and they specify within the letter that the model rules do not apply to individuals, it applies to the developer, and that's how, I'm assuming that's what he's saying by not having to abide by the model subdivision rules. That's what the letter indicates, and again, I will attach it to the minutes, Mayor, for this agenda item.
Cervantes, you're going to add something else?
This item is for your consideration. Like we discussed in executive session, it could be just for electrical permits, or it can be for all permits.
How was that? It was for what?
One option is to grant a variance only for electrical permits, or the other option is to grant a variance for all permits. Or right. no variance at all.
So what is the desire of the commission?
Motion to approve a variance for the electrical use permit.
Are there any other recommendations? And there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. As to item in executive session A and B, there'll be no action as to A and no action as to B. Moving on in the regular agenda, consider possible action on changing infrastructure projects for fiscal year 2015 under the Urban County Program. Mr. Cervantes.
There is an interest in replacing infrastructure projects under the Urban County Program for fiscal year 28, which is 2015, with other projects. At this time, the projects program for that fiscal year involved the repaving of Iowa Street from 1st to Railroad Streets, and 3rd Street from Kansas to Wyoming Streets, and 4th Street also from Kansas to Wyoming Streets. Under that fiscal year, the proposed change is to repave the streets being Pulling, Hooper, Coconut, and Salazar, all within the Capri number 1, 2, and 3 subdivisions, which was discovered that recently are eligible for Urban County funds. Maps and cost estimate are attached.
And with that, was there an environmental done already, or is that what's going to be scheduled?
That's in the works for Iowa and 3rd, and that's the next step with the Urban County.
And what we have allocated would be able to cover all the streets that you've stated?
We went over them. If you have to, you're actually going to use, we're also going to recommend that you use this year's, some of it. It might be a little short because on this cycle it's going to be this month. So it's not any time waste. I mean, it's the same thing, but we're going to recommend that you put some of those in there because the streets are even worse now. You're going to have to put more caliche now. The way we were doing it before, we weren't adding caliche. We were just doing what was there, putting lines, putting it down, paving it. Now you're going to have to add some caliche. So we are going to recommend that on this October, Urban County, which is coming up, to allocate something for this project.
And our percentage as far as taking care of the expensing of the CDBG money, are we within compliance? of the percentage?
The ratio?
The ratio.
As far as I know, yes. I think we're in good shape with the ratio based on the projects that have been recently completed.
Are there any questions? Not, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Cervantes. Item I, consider ratifying the San Juan Economic Development Corporation's annual budget for fiscal year 2015-2016. Mr. Rodriguez. Okay.
Mayor, good evening. As per our last conversation, when I came before you a couple of weeks ago, I believe there was some requests for some detail on some of the items, or all the items on the budget. I provided that detail for your review over the weekend. Today, what I passed out was just a summary of what's coming up for this year's budget. It's the same as last year's. Some line items went up, some line items decreased. And then the other one I attached was the salaries. There was a sheet that has the salaries in the back. There was a request for salaries. I've got that in there for you, Mayor.
And today's, what you just handed out?
Is the salaries, yes, Mayor. We didn't, yes, Commissioner. The, one of the issues that we've had, and we discussed that, I've discussed that with Mr. Garza, was just access to Encode when it comes to the salaries and things like that. So we're working those things out so that we could be able to either, I think the staff and I would prefer that the city continue to handle that. That way, just it's more, I think there's more transparency through that. We just turn in the board will make a recommendation. I turn that into Human Resource, and then Human Resources process the information. We currently pay the city, I believe, $1,000 a month for that service. So I think it's good. It's a good way to do that, and I'd prefer to keep it that way. And then the other request was to make sure that kind of compare where we've been, the history, and like I said, that was the sheet that was handed to you over the weekend. And then what we did this year, the other form that you have is just we included this year's budget, Mayor, the one that I just gave you, just so that you can compare that. And I can go. I'm going to go over it if you allow me. It's up to the commission just to go over the summary a little bit.
Did some of these numbers change, or the same ones you handed to me on?
It was the same that was handed to it originally when we brought the budget forward, Mayor. And what I do is just some of the areas that I wanted to share with you on the summary. It's this thing here, Mayor, this portion here. Just the, I'll just start and kind of briefly go over these here. The first one was the auto allowance. I believe we'll see a decrease this year. We're minus 2 employees right now that were receiving mileage, and Mr. Villarreal, who was with us at the time, was receiving car allowance when I was there. So there was 2 people getting car allowance. There was a recommendation to the board to eliminate one of those car allowances, and we did. And so we took care of that, but it was still in this year's budget. I mean, last year's budget, excuse me. And then, of course, with 2 less employees, we should see a decrease, and I do expect to see a decrease in the mileage that we pay these employees to run and be more.
You have a total of how many employees employed right now? How many total?
There's 3 of us all together, Mayor, including myself. The other professional services, this line item, we expect it to remain the same. Yeah, remain steady, and this includes our what we pay to maintain the web page. We have some cleaning services, some mowing services, some college interns that we're currently using with UTRGV which we're taking advantage of, which is, I believe, very good thing to do. And then, of course, grant writing services that we have, that we've enlisted the board-approved Petra Reina and Hollis Rutledge as grant writers for the
Grant writers or lobbyists?
grant writers. Currently, Ms. Petra is working on a grant for us through NADBank that we're working on, and then Mr. Rutledge will be working one through the EDA.
And they're contractual for the project specific? Are they project specific?
Well, well, no, not project specific. What they are is they're contracts to do grant writing. Their contracts state that, Mayor. Mr. Vasquez and I went over those, so they specifically state grant writing.
Okay, so you have a contract with them for a year, or?
It's the way their contracts is written. It's for a year, but there's a 30-day out clause. At any time we give them a 30-day notice, we can get out of that agreement.
And that's included in your numbers for professional services?
Yes, ma'am. That number's in there. The next one is the accounting and auditing services. Again, I referenced that earlier. That's pretty much it's a flat rate that we have, which is $1,000 times 12 to the city that we pay on a monthly basis, and then the $5,000 that we get charged for our auditing of our books. The rental of land and building, that's our monthly rent, which we pay. It's $1,830 a month is what we're paying over a 12-month cycle. We increased. We were at about, I think it was 1,200. Were we before 1,200? 1,200, 1,100. We increased it. The events we were having, Mayor, we were having a lot of material that we were investing in that was left over. So there was either that or get a storage unit to store some of these items. So what we did is we went on ahead and leased out an extra suite to store this product. It varies, different types of items, but items that we spent money on and we need to take care of. So what better place than to have them next door to you?
So the increase was about $600?
The total rent was $1,532. $300 was for the storage.
For the rent? Okay.
So, Mr. Rodriguez, is this yearly, like lease on a year-to-year base?
It's on a year. We signed a contract. We just renewed them this past in August. We renewed for they were requesting a 2-year agreement, but I think that's what we did. We did a 2-year agreement, but we could get out of that just with the notice, just letting them know in time so they can make their proper arrangements. Okay. The next one is the rental of machinery and equipment. Right now, that line item is fairly expensive. We got locked in a few years back for a contract with a copier service, and it was fairly expensive, and we won't get out of that to 2017. And that's fairly expensive per month. It comes out to what, about $2,000 or $3,000? How much is it? Yeah, it's fairly expensive. So
You don't have a policy for 1 year like the city does for contracts?
That contract was done, it was done without the approval.
Okay, were you all on the board at that time? That you were? And
we
what, you
didn't
just
know.
caught it?
Well, after it was signed, Mayor, we found out that when we tried to get out of it, I think Mr. Vasquez, we brought in Mr. Vasquez to try to find a way to get out of it, pay him off. It just, for whatever reason, we couldn't get out of it. I don't.
Locked-in contract, and I believe Ms. Guerra found it when she first started a couple years back. She was they were doing an audit of the different contracts, and that was a contract that came up, and I believe the venue was out of state to even fight the lawsuit, and that was done without any legal review as well.
But to answer your question, Mayor, yes, we want to follow those same guidelines, and like I told you.
Do you have it as policy?
We don't. No, we don't have it as policy, but I know that Mr. Vasquez and I, and like I'm going to reiterate what I said the last time, we're going to put all these policies in place. We're seeing where we're having some opportunities to to have transparency and making sure how we operate. So they'll be coming to the board. I've already, the board does have some copies of other EDCs and how they do their purchasing, how they manage just their whole office. So we've got, I think it was Edinburgh, Westaco, I think Mission. So we pass those on, and so we're reviewing those so we can present to the board for, to kind of shoot some holes in it and then put a good policy together that can be implemented and approved so that we have something in writing that I believe is important. Okay? The electricity is pretty much, it stays, well, I'm not going to say it stays consistent. That just depends on the market. The internet, that line also will pretty much stay consistent. The telephone, this is one that there was a question here. What it is, we currently pay, I think the number.
Can I just ask you a real quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
What your projected is going to be exactly as 2014, 2015?
Yes, because we don't, that's why I'm telling you here, I don't foresee anything going over that, Mayor. We looked this up.
Because we just have the 2014, 2015. I don't have any projected numbers on this budget.
Okay, I think.
At least, not on this particular one that I'm making
I think the one on that maroon folder that I handed
okay,
out,
then
Mayor.
the other one then.
Yes, we added the 2015, 16.
I got you. So this package doesn't have it that we've got delivered.
No, and the reason we didn't put that in there because I was waiting to do the summary, so I wanted to make sure that we match up. So tonight we could cover it. We could cover
Very
it
good.
item by item. And then on that one is we currently pay on a yearly basis, we paid about $3,420 just for our office phone system that we currently have. And then of course the service, and then we have a $120 a month cell phone for the 3 employees. So about $40, $50 each employee that has a cell phone. Something currently that the city does also, and so we did the same thing there. I did have a city phone, but in visiting with Hussein, he would wanted to cut some costs with the city, so I turned in that phone and then went out and then got the other phone. So that's where we're at with the telephone expense. The advertising is our budget that we use to promote local businesses through job fairs, public notice, job postings, radio, television, print media, just something that we do. And all this is, we verify it through Mr. Vasquez and just make sure that we're following as per 4B sales tax laws, that we're applying that money correctly. So that's what you see on the advertising.
Do you spread it out throughout the year, or is it mainly when the events are coming up, or how do you do that?
It's throughout the year, Mayor, and then the other one is that a lot of times you don't know when these businesses are going to come to you and ask for assistance in advertising. But we pretty much get a gauge on when the new businesses come in, and generally it's the businesses that either are new businesses or existing businesses that come to us that have never received any assistance and are asking for assistance to promote their business.
Do we still do the requirement that they have to have classes before they're able to get them so that they can qualify? They have to go through a financial class?
Yes, ma'am. We reached out to UTRGV, who was doing that class for us, and so we had one scheduled for this past month. We didn't have a lot of participation. We're going to try it again for the next month to get folks to come out, but we do have people that do participate in the class and that they get a mini grant. That's part of a like advertising mini grant.
They're able to get the grant. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. The travel and training, this is the one that we also talked about a little bit, and this year we're budgeting for the following, which is the TML, the Urban County, the 4B sales tax training, and retail conferences, and then some trips to state capital that may be necessary this year. On this one here, Mayor, we may have, depending on the projects that come up, I may ask you or one of the commissioners to go with me to go to Austin to talk about some projects that could
On your
be coming.
travel budget?
On our travel budget. Yes, ma'am. So, but we've got some projects, we just don't know what's going to happen or where they're going to lead us to, but in case that happens, that we're prepared to handle that cost as it comes to us. If you'll turn the page, we have the office equipment. Again, we just don't see a lot of, we did have some large purchases this year. We had some computers that were outdated and kind of crashed. Well, not kind of, they crashed, and so we had to go out and purchase new equipment for that, for the offices.
So what's your budget for this year? It doesn't have anything on the side?
Same, I'm assuming.
Everything's
It
the
stays
same?
the same.
For equipment, we're just leaving it, we're zeroing it out.
Zero. Okay.
Zero. And office supplies, I believe it's the same. if I'm not mistaken.
1,500.
Yeah, 1,500. And again, that one, Mayor, just don't see any large movement in that one. It's pretty much gonna stay where it's at. With 2 less employees, it kind of helps you there. Uniforms, again, we don't see any increase in this line either.
At a 5, you're zeroing it out.
It's 0,
There's
I
nothing
believe.
on the side on
Yeah,
this
I
one.
don't think it's 0. If it's nothing there, it's a 0.
0?
Yes, ma'am. Then we have the memberships that we're currently part of, the Rio Grande Partnership, the TEDC, the Texan, which is the, what was it again? The agriculture, that we're part of, the, what's it called? No, there's a name for it. Go Texas campaign. We're part of that, that committee or that membership. And then, of course, the City Secretary Association, part of that membership too. I think those are just $20 per member per year. And
For
then,
you?
pardon?
For you or what?
No, for the staff, for Pat and Deanna,
Okay.
for them to go. I believe it's, they provide when it comes to, they have detailed training on record keeping, they have detailed training on the Opens Meetings Act, public information requests, things like that. So I feel it's important for them to get educated on that as much as they can. They're not certified classes, but they do raise their awareness to the do's and don'ts, dealing with all the city secretaries across the valley. I think Sandra's part of that too, and it's a great organization. The next one is the promotional. The San Juan EDC currently budgets 10% of its sales tax revenue for items such as, and this is where when we do our part for the Noche de Paz, and this, and I'm referring to this past year, I don't know this year, but this is where a lot of these monies come from, and then we, and then of course we do sponsorships to local charities. And, we just had one recently, I think the St. John the Baptist, and then we do some with the Basilica. And this is an avenue that by law we're able to participate and support our community, and so.
Now, I know that I don't have any information as to the, what you had projected and what actually got done. I don't, as far as on this one. Do you have it in the supplements? That's one of the ones I had a question on.
On that one there, Mayor, I think, did you get the detail?
Yes,
on the detail? And it's pretty much, now, when we say the 10%, we just don't, you kind of tend to want to forecast. So we do it a forecast, we conservatively forecast, and technically we stay with last year's numbers. We always budget or prepare for less in that, but it should have you a detail of what we used, what we expensed those this year, some of the items that were expensed there, and all those costs associated to that.
It's the very last page.
Yes, ma'am.
On the promotional?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so then my question is, because this shows what I wanted to ask you all on, especially you, Mr. Tapia. You have original budget of 74,000, and you got to 112,000 by the time that it was all spent and done. It was over. Where do you supplement that from? Where do you pull the money to supplement that from? What line item did you all use to make sure you met your?
Yeah, the year before was 114, and it came down to 112.
Right, and well, the way I'm reading this is original budget is 74,000.
But it was budgeted at 114, but the activity was 112, and the ending balance was a 112 to 16. So we had a remaining balance.
Are we
of
looking at the
2,000.
same last page? Oh no, I'm looking at something else.
No. Just probably looking.
You have it under. I got this as promotional expenses.
Was it in the thick packet? Oh, it's in the thick packet.
Is that different than the one you're reading from?
No, it's the same.
This is what she's looking
It's the same number. It's the same number, but
She's just looking at
what I'm saying
okay.
is, according, this one does give me the breakdown, and this was my question. It has, original budget was 74,000, which is what you all projected last year. But the ending balance, and it says 2415, so I would say by September 30th, is 112,000. My question is, there's at least a I would venture to say a 30,000, maybe a $40,000 difference. Where do you get the difference to make sure you met that expense? Where does a transfer come from?
I'm sorry, Mayor, but on that one, it wasn't 74,000. What it is, if you look at the
That's the
activity and the original budget, this is what I got from Encode. This is what I got from
Okay,
Encode.
so when it says original budget, it's not original budget?
That's not the original budget. If you notice on the other sheet that we went ahead and gave you, which was last year's budget, the original was 114,679. That's what was allocated because it was 10% of our total revenue.
So what would the 74 be?
I don't know.
Do you have any idea?
I have no control over those. I don't. I have no access to it, so I really don't know where they got the 74. I did send out an email to Leroy, and I believe I copied Mr. Garza. We had sold a property, so 5,550 were supposed to go into our promotional, but I never saw the transaction, so I did email them and tell them that transaction had to happen, but it was not 74, Mayor. It was 114 total.
Okay.
Well, and I think what we probably could do, Mayor, is this is the budget that was approved at last year's city commission meeting, and maybe we ought to get, we can get that for you, but it's pretty much
Maybe
the same.
this is, what you attached is definitely what I wanted to see. It definitely gives detail. Now, the other, I'll talk to you a little bit about what I didn't get, though. But I think what would help is we look at, so that it was confusion for me, and then this kind of just sort of set us back to those numbers. With the format that we use, that you can see, it'll do, for this particular year, you do budgeted, actual, balance remaining. That way you know on a month-to-month basis, for at least for your board, says, you know, we're on target, guess what, we're about to hit this, we can't spend any more on whatever. And maybe you have that somewhere, but what we got doesn't have that. It just kind of goes year by year, and then this year it ends, so there's no comparison. I think that helps as you look at a snapshot. At least it does us as a commission, for the board to know that you're right on target, or you're getting a little too over. And so,
that's
and
I
guess we need to fix this, because you're telling me it's producing
Right,
this.
that is not the expenditure report that I get, and I do present to the board on a monthly basis. So that way they can go ahead and see exactly up to date how much we've spent and what is the remaining balance.
Right.
That is the.
Okay, so maybe whatever needs to be done in this, because then this gives a very different picture.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
It
very
does.
important.
We've met with, I've been meeting with Mr. Garza, and we're seeing that we didn't get into Encode. It was a while before we finally got into the Encode system. And there's some things, some areas that we don't have access to, and like I explained earlier, which way it's kind of good. We don't want to have those. We just want to turn in the invoices and get those things paid, so they don't have to happen at our level, but they happen at somebody else reviews the purchases and things like that. So it works good in that manner, but we found out that there were some little disconnects there, so we'll get those corrected for this year.
The other thing that I requested was that I wanted a copy of what you all get at your meetings, Mr. Tapia, when the financials get done. At the last meeting, I had the financials that were presented to the board for March and April, and I requested if I could please get January through, it was August, because it was August then, January through August, so that I could see exactly what you all are seeing. And one of the things that I pointed out that I had seen in those reports was that there was, and we found out that there is a debit card that belongs to the EDC. And I did ask Mr. Rodriguez that what is the policy on that, and he tells me that there really is no policy, but it's available to be used by members of the staff. So my recommendation would be that there should be a policy established, especially.
We have one. It's not the policy, but we do have a rule in place. Anytime that they can do their regular purchases, if the purchase is going to be more than $500, they do have to get board approval on those. So when they do, when we have clients that come from out of town, or we have potential customers here from the valley that we need to meet with, we go take them out to lunch or dinner, whichever, vice versa. Those are approved. They are allowed to use it for that. Anything over 500, they have to get board approval. So it's not carte blanche that they're going to go buy here, buy there, no. It's, and anytime it's being
And you said you have it
used-
as policy already?
It's not in a policy, but we do have it as a rule
Okay.
that the board, that the staff knows that any purchases that are gonna be over $500 has to have our approval, and that is discussed, and Pat will call me, call Ms. Prado, call one of the other board members. We're gonna need to purchase this, like when her computer went out, crashed, it was gonna be over 500, call me, they called 3 board members to get their approval to go do, because we needed to purchase that computer to replace it right away, because, and when that happened, she lost her encode, and that's when we needed to get it replaced.
Right, and that you already have because you put in a line item
Yes.
that you can use.
And we've had that since McCarthy was in, that at any time, and it's not that Carla Blanche, you're gonna, oh, if I don't spend it, it's gonna roll over to the next month, so now we gotta, no. Any single purchase that's over 500 has to be reported to the.
And I think one of the, just, you know, as a recommendation, that you make policy. And I think the other is, one of the things that I noticed on that, I was looking at the purchases, and you have something as, and the only note was $3, McDonald's for $3, and those stick out because they're so, $3 for McDonald's, and it says investor, $6, $7 Subway, investor. And so how do you make sure, of course, you have to trust your employees, but the whole thing is a checks and balance, that it's not an easy, well, I don't have any money on me, I'm gonna buy my lunch, and I swipe it. And how do you, because it's a debit card, not a credit card. Credit cards, you can at least challenge the purchase without the money taken out. Once you've debited something, the money's gone. And it becomes a little bit more difficult, I think, to obtain that money back after it's been spent. So I don't know, I think that's one thing, to give consideration.
That's one of the things that I do, and Pat can tell you. I nick and pick at her reports. I'll go through the financials. Used to do the same with the other employees, going through what they're doing, what's coming up. Okay, let's see, what are you working on? I go through each one. I'll go sit with Bobby. Okay, what are we working on? What are we doing this month? What progress have we done with this investors? And I go with all of them. And I'm one that does spend a lot of time with them, and with especially with the budgets. That's one of the things. Working for 26 years at a college and being responsible for 34 departments working with their budgets, I nitpick all of it.
Very important. But I do want to get those copies. And one final thought on it. As far as the budget and looking at on the projects, I know that one of the mentions was that we're going to just roll over the projects to the next year. And so one of the things I suggested was that, as we look at budgeting, one of the things that maybe more so is the available forums for businesses to come, like the trainings, and I was seeing those for a while and they kind of stopped, so that we are at least putting the word out that we're interested in recruiting. And of course, you also have to work on the sustainability. So I really would appreciate seeing more aggressiveness where that is concerned. And then my final thought on the other is, I had asked, when you do that debiting of those expenses, where does it come from? If I go to McDonald's for $3, what line item am I expensing in your budget?
That's what the board has asked us to do.
No, but I know, but in your budget, where does it come from?
It's not included. Our compass account.
The compass account is not with this budget.
It's not with our budget.
Totally separate.
That is after talking to our auditor, that has no restrictions as of where, because that is not where we sales tax money. Those are the sponsorships that we receive when we have an event. Any type of sponsorship that comes in, that goes in there. That's where we start, putting our money in. And that's what the board allows to go ahead and.
Just say something you just said, okay. You get sponsorships for events.
Yes.
Okay, so if I give you money for a event, then you really can't use it for an investor later, because it's for that event.
Not all the sponsorships are exactly, like if a company, like say for example, Laguna Lifestyle, okay, here's, $3,000. Okay, well, that goes into the compass account that is free to use for any type of event or anything that we have. Now, the money that we already had is just really, we don't really spend it as, how can I explain it? You don't spend it just on frugal or little items that we have. The money was already there. In fact, when I came in, the money has always been the same. Because when the money comes in for this, if it's for a specific event, that's how we pay for it.
Correct.
So we put the money in there, that same money, we take it out because we bought items.
It's like when
for
we
the
do the
event.
Cinco de
So it's-
Mayo, when we give the money to the Parks and Rec to pay out for the cooks, that's where the money comes from
For
that
the
fund. It does
sponsorships.
not come from this
Right.
budget.
Okay, so you have another account where people just say, okay, EDC, I like you, I'm gonna give you money.
Yes, and